Good morning, y'all, and welcome back to the channel. Thanks for joining me. Did y'all hear that one? That good morning had just a little extra. That's because we are back home in Texas, and boy, are we glad to be here. I will say, we brought the cold weather home with us. It's not as cold as it was in Illinois or Indiana, but it's been pretty cold here in Texas. Also, remember all those problems I had on the way home that I said future Kevin would deal with? Well, guess what? Now that we're home, it's time for future Kevin to deal with them. And today, we're gonna start by taking care of some of the things on the truck, but I have a special guest to help me.
Well, good morning to y'all. I'm back. Hope y'all had a great Christmas. Ate too much, had too much fun. We sure did in Texas. I sure have missed y'all. I'll see you later.
What he means by see you later is the next scene, because Phil's gonna be hanging out with me for the entire video.
Hey y'all, it's later. I'm back.
All right, so before we talk about what tires we're getting with today, I think it's important to talk about the experience we have with these tires, because this will be our third set today we're putting on, and the first two sets had two very different stories. Our truck came from the factory with the Michelin LTX AT2s, and so far through two sets, those tires have been very good to us. Our first set made it 44,000 miles, and that is with no tire rotations. The fronts were beyond done, the rears still had some life in them. So the reason we didn't rotate on our first set is because we found it a challenge to get the tires rotated properly. That's because if you own a dually, more specifically a dually with aluminum rims, in order to rotate them correctly, you have to take the tires off the rims and move the tires to new rims. That's because the front tires, or the front rims, can only be the front rims, the rear outer rims can only be the rear outer rims, and the rear inner rims, they're steel, so they can only be the inner rims. So we found that most places wanted to charge $150 to $180 just to do a rotation, and we didn't feel like that was worth the extra money because you're trying to rotate at every oil change. So when it came time to replace our first set, we decided to go back with the Michelin LTX AT2s. Only this time we decided to go with Discount Tire. That's because if you purchase tires through them, they will rotate them for free, and they'll do it the right way if you own a dually. And that brings us to our current set. They made it 48,000 miles with rotating. We rotated them at every oil change, so roughly 5 rotations. Would you guys like to see how rotating them changed the life and wear of the tires? Let's look at the tires, and we're gonna start at the worst one. That is the front passenger side, the one showing the most wear. And as you can see, it's pretty much done right here. Not so bad right here in the middle. The outside edge is done.
Why you reckon the outside is wore more than the inside? I know you check your tires air pressure a lot. I see you on your videos doing that.
Well, I thought the same thing too. I thought I was running the wrong air pressure. I actually run 75 PSI in the fronts, and I've lowered it down to 65 for the rears because it makes everything just a little bit smoother back there. But the reason it wears in the front is because that's just the way Super Duties wear. If you tow all the time, your outside of your front steers are going to be wore down significantly.
Being the astute driver that I am, that makes a lot of sense.
All right, so let's move to the rear passenger side. So here is the rear outer. You can see there's some wear right here. And the rear inner almost looks like there's hardly any wear. I mean, it's worn, but it's way better than this one.
Wow, that outside tire is wore a whole lot more than that inside one. You just swap them back around and get 10 more miles out of that tire right there.
I have noticed the outside rear tire always wears more than the inside rear tire. And that was part of the reason why we decided to lower the pressure from 75 to 65. We thought it might even things out a little better. Obviously, it didn't help with the wear, because you can see the outside is still wore more than the inside. All right, let's move to the driver's side rears. And you're gonna see a very similar story as compared to the passenger side. There is the outside, it's worn, but not terrible. And the inside is significantly better. So the same story, the outside is worn more than the inside.
This is true. Quite a bit more on the outside than the inside. The inside looks like a brand new one to me.
And let's move to our last tire, the driver's side front. And you will see this one looks amazing. Do you know why it's amazing?
I have no idea.
Well, that's because all the tires I just told you about, that's not the position they were in just a week or two ago. So all these tires, if you base them on wear, you would be wrong, because that's not where the tires have spent most of their life. So now, why do you think the tires are wearing funny? Because they're not in the positions they were to make that wear.
I don't know.
The answer is they were not rotated correctly. If you look at my tires, it's like I have 3 different pairs of tires on this truck. Would you agree?
I'd agree.
And you know what they are? I have one pair that appears to have lived most of its life on the front. I have one pair that appears to be mostly on the rear, maybe one trip to the front. And I have a pair of tires that look like they've never seen the front.
Wow, they've been around the truck, haven't they?
Well, actually they haven't.
That's the problem.
That's why it's not working, because they haven't been around the truck. And let me explain more. So what is the correct way to rotate the tires on a dually? Well, Discount says the passenger tires always stay on the passenger side. The driver tires always stay on the driver's side. And how they rotate them is the front always goes to the rear outer. The rear outer goes to the rear inner. The rear inner comes to the front. And eventually they make their rotations around, and when they do about 2 trips, it's time to get new tires. However, in our case, because of the wear pattern, we think they were not rotated correctly. They were rotated, they just weren't done correctly. So what likely happened, and this is the theory that me and the Discount Tire guy came up with, the fronts were just swapped side to side. So the front tire stayed on the front, it just went to that side, but because they're aluminum rims, the outside edge was still the outside edge. And they did the same thing back here. They moved the outside to the outside, and they left the insides on the insides. And that's why we have some very different wear patterns. Now you can tell it was rotated correctly a few times, but more often than not, we think they just swapped the rims from side to side and called it good. That's why it seems as though we have 2 brand new tires, 2 halfway worn tires, and 2 tires completely wore out. That one has been a front tire most of its life, right?
Right.
This rear outer right here has also been a front tire most of its life. So that's why those 2 are worn the most, because I think they spent most of their time just swapping side to side. Now, the middle tires, the ones that are halfway worn, I believe that is this right here, this rear outer, and the rear inner on this side of the truck. That is my medium sets. The sets that have maybe been on the front one time when it was rotated correctly, but for most part, they spent their life back here on the rear of the truck. And then there's the set that looks like it hasn't done anything in its life. The set that looks brand new.
Yeah.
And that is gonna be the rear inner on this one. Look at the tread on that one. And the one that's on the front on this side. Those right there look as though I could go another 25, 30,000 miles.
Easily, yeah.
If only I had all 6 of them looking that way. So that is why we think it wasn't rotated correctly, and why we think rotating does serve a purpose if done the right way. So, is rotating your tires worth it? I believe it is. We got an additional 4,000 miles out of our second set, and we didn't even rotate them the correct way. I think this set, I'm gonna document the rotations. That way I know where the tires started, where they've been, and where they're going. That way I can make sure the tires see every position on the truck. I think if you rotate them the correct way, you may not get the 60,000 miles that they claim for these tires, but there's no reason you can't get close to 55 or 56,000 miles out of a set. And there's no reason not to rotate them, because Discount Tire rotates them for free.
Do you have any problem up there at Discount getting scheduled to do that? What's the process?
Well, Phil, we're here in East Texas, so it's actually pretty easy. You make a phone call, you get a scheduled appointment, and you show up and they take care of it. Now, we do travel on the road, and that's where things get a little interesting, because as you explore other states, maybe the Discount tires aren't on the same plan as the ones from Texas. So like in Florida, when we went there to have them rotated, he wanted to charge me $180, and I said, I've bought them here, it's included. He goes, it's not included for dualies here in Florida. Well, I made a phone call to East Texas here, and the guys here at Discount called back over to the Florida shop and got it all taken care of for me, and we were able to get our tires rotated. It also happened again when I was in North Carolina. They did not want to rotate them by busting them down off the rims and moving the tires to different rims, because yes, it is a lot of work. It's basically like mounting and balancing 6 new tires, which is a lot of work. But I told them that the Discount Tire in Texas does this for free, and they sell the tires with this included. Well, another phone call to East Texas, and they explained what's going on, and it actually is a thing. It's company-wide. If anyone ever tells you at Discount they do not rotate dually tires the correct way, if you're having any problems, call the Discount Tire here in Lufkin, Texas, and tell them you own a dually, and they'll call any store for you, especially if you bought the tires from Discount, and they will have them rotated for free, because that's what Discount Tire does for all the tires they sell. Well, Phil, now that we've talked about tires, there's only one thing left to do. All
this tire talk's made me tired.
It's time to take the truck to the store and put some new shoes on her. All right, we made it. Let's go get some new tires. You can't take Phil anywhere.
They just grow out here alongside me. If y'all need a chair, I'll come to your place and one will follow me.
So for those of you who don't understand why you have to rotate the tires the way you do with aluminum rims, here is why. So this is my rear outer. See, it's nice and shiny and aluminum. Well, guess what? The inside looks like this. Not so shiny, not so aluminum, and it has part numbers and writing on it from Ford. So if you were to flip it around, this will be on the outside. And if you have aluminum rims, not all six are aluminum. The inside rear looks just like this. It's actually steel, and both sides are steel. So if you have aluminum rims, you don't really want this on the outside, because that's why you bought aluminum rims, so it'll look good. And the same can be said if you have custom rims. If you buy those big fancy custom rims off the internet, you only get the outside looking pretty. The inside will not look pretty, and the inside rear will always be steel. So if you have aluminum rims, the only way to rotate them correctly is to move the tires to new rims. We're all done here at Discount Tire. Once again, thank you guys for hooking us up with some new tires. They even got me some new windshield wipers. He said, you need some new ones. I was like, I'll just go to Walmart and get some. He goes, I'll match their price and I'll put them on for you here. So we got new windshield wipers and we got new tires. This is before and this is after. And this right here is a lot better than that. So we settled on the original tires. We went back with the Michelin LTX AT2s and they look amazing. Look at that tire right there. That is a beautiful tire. Check out these rears. It's nice to have both rears being the same amount of tread. Check out this front side. It's amazing. You don't realize how bad your tires are until you see brand new ones. And then here is the front one, the one that was worn the most. So why did we go back with the Michelins? Well, a lot of you guys sent several suggestions and I took all of them into consideration. And after talking to Discount Tire and a few other tire stores and guys that actually tow all the time, like hot shotters, I came to the conclusion that 45 to 48,000 miles without rotating or rotating correctly is a pretty good life for these tires. But the real reason came is because even though we do tow a lot, we actually don't tow as much as you would think. So of that 48,000 miles, maybe 15 was with the trailer. So 2/3 of our miles actually are not hooked up, and that's why I went with the Michelins, because when we're not towing, the Michelins make this thing ride, well, it still rides like a truck, but it rides like a really comfortable truck. Well, Phil, what do you think about those new tires?
I tell you what, those are fine tires there. They got, look at there, you can't even see my fingernails in there. That's some grip there.
So what did these tires set us back? Well, today cost us $1,924.03. Yeah, tires are pretty pricey, especially when you gotta buy 6 at a time. But it's totally worth it because it lets us travel full-time on the road. And speaking of tires that let us travel full-time on the road, the RV needs tires as well. And because we're likely not going back with the Westlakes, instead of the 6, we need to buy 7 so they all match. So far, Discount has come up with solutions that involve Hankook and the Carlisle. So if any of you guys have any experience with either one of those, let me know in the comments down below. I know the Westlakes did their job, but we want to replace it with a better tire. So we're leaning towards the Carlisles, but you guys let me know. Is there anything good or bad about either one that I just mentioned? And since we're on the subject of things that need to be changed out, there is one more thing. Hey Bob, we had a pretty good year together. You hung out there on the windshield and got to see a lot of this beautiful country of ours. Well, Bob, it's been fun, but I think you earned a break. Why, hello there, 2024 Bob. You smell amazing. Thank you. Oh, and you even had the same voice as the last Bob. We all have the same voice. Well, Bob, you ready to hit the road and see what 2024 brings us? I'm ready to go. Let's hit it. Now that we're done with all of that, it's time to take care of one more thing on this truck that's a little more serious. The check engine light. Yeah, it's still on, but in our next video, we're taking care of that. So anyway, guys, thanks for hanging out with us. We love you, and we'll see ya in the next one.